Unless you've already grinded, you can't ever slow down too. You have to keep your foot on the gas.
Hey, welcome. This is Lumos Talks, powered by Blindspot. It's a weekly show on growth marketing, straight from the people doing the work. I'm Seb. I'm the ECD at Blindspot, and this is my colleague Bogdan, who runs marketing. Say hi, Bogdan.
Hello, folks.
Welcome to episode 1. This is our first guest, Ian Chambers. I'll give you a little bit about his background. He's a director of marketing and paid media at Concord Music Group. I've known Ian for about 15 years. We both started working in the music business together. And what was really fascinating about Ian was he was the first person in entertainment that I had met that focused on performance marketing. He also was the first person I'd ever met that got Google Ads certified. And to an industry like music, that was a new thing. Music is one of the hardest things to market. It's a product that nobody particularly wants to pay for. It's available for free everywhere. And you have to get really creative with their strategies. We have done a lot of work in music. We've done a lot of stuff with Rihanna, DJ Khaled, a bunch of artists that when they want to book their digital out of home, they come to us. But Ian, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks, Seb.
So do you want to tell us about your career? Give us the rundown.
My career, yeah. Why did I choose this line of business? Where do I begin? I got a job with a friend, and I was managing art. I was trying to manage artists, and I knew nothing, and I was trying to learn everything. My friend said, "Hey, how about you come and I'll teach you how to do marketing and advertising. It'll help you with your management stuff." Lo and behold, 15 years later, that became my career. I did manage artists, and it did actually help having that marketing and advertising experience to be able to build a brand and grow a brand. But we were one of the first people to do remarketing using pixels before Facebook even had a pixel in music. So we were going to record labels and trying to explain to old men what a pixel was, and they had no concept of it. And the best way I could say it is if you look at a diamond ring and the diamond ring follows you everywhere you go on the internet, that's what we're doing. And I still didn't know what I was talking about. From there, I worked at a bunch of different music companies, and now I really just sit at, the head of paid media at Concord and working on just finding new ways to do advertising. And a lot of it now has been trying to figure out how to port over like e-com performance marketers, and how I can use their strategies in music, because music is such a specific genre, like a specific niche of something to market. Because with marketing music, you can't market shit. That's where it comes down to. I can't sell something people don't want to buy. I can't sell something that's bad. I mean, I can, and I can push it, but like for me, that's like a big issue, because it's like if you sign something that's terrible and you want me to try to get this out to everybody, I can get it out to people, but I can't make people care. Beyond getting people to care, it's the whole industry has changed. Marketing is completely different than it used to be. Everything is pushing towards like this broad, like the complete opposite of what I learned how to do, which is like very specific, building your own lists, reaching these people that have already known about it, and now it's like pushing it out to the biggest possible segment of the population that you possibly can with very minimal targeting, especially in like paid media. That's like how it has pushed, having to port over strategies that don't exist in music. And music's like, I feel like it's very behind in marketing and advertising, because you have politics and you have people who've worked at these companies forever who age out and don't learn, and then trying to explain what you're doing or even prove it. I mean, like there was in 18 months I made like $2 million that didn't exist before, spending like $300,000 in the specific paid media, doing like growth, paid media type stuff, performance marketer stuff, and no one even cared. They didn't even like understand. I was like, do you understand this like $2 million didn't exist before I started doing this? So trying to convince people, trying to explain to people, because also there's a lot of people who don't understand what we do, which can be frustrating because it almost feels like what you're doing falls on deaf ears. There's obviously times when there's big wins, and figuring out things that people haven't been doing before. What did we do? Something that worked out really well not recently, but like 2 years ago, was using out-of-home digital billboards. And Taking Back Sunday had a record coming out, and they were playing When We Were Young Fest in Las Vegas. So it's like they weren't playing, but like that was going on. That festival was going on. And I bought all of the billboards that were surrounding the festival grounds where they were doing it. And turns out one of the billboards I got was directly behind main stage. And I was the only person who bought that billboard. So it was like this Taking Back Sunday new album out now was in every single photograph of main stage in the background. So there's like cool wins like that, or like trying to super serve festivals. And that, from that, I came up with a new strategy that if an artist is playing a certain festival, I'll try to get every digital billboard that's on the route into getting into the festival, anything that's around the festival, things like that, which is cool. And obviously like digital billboards are a little bit harder to track. I mean, you have like an estimated what people see, but the beautiful thing about it is you're not paying $10,000 like a normal billboard. and you can specify what time it runs. So, just trying to stay abreast on all of the changing technology and changing targeting. Obviously, marketing has really come down to content too, which is like if you don't understand good content, because it's like that's the thing. Being a jack of all trades wasn't always the best thing, and now it really is because you have to understand how content works if you want to be a good marketer or a good advertiser, because it really comes down to content at this point. Now everything is about content.
Yeah. How important is the creative with? And it's funny you talk about. Just a sidetrack, it's funny you talk about festivals and billboards, because I remember 2010 when people wouldn't advertise on the way to Coachella, but now those billboards, I remember looking at the billboards, the cost of those billboards, they were like $60, and now I think they're like, I don't know, four grand for Coachella week, right? It's also funny
because which way it's facing. They
right.
go up to 10,000.
And also it's funny that there's actually low. It's still funny to me there's such low digital inventory from Los Angeles to because the Desert at Night is one of the best. We were putting together a deal for Coachella last year, and the inventory was really like I think there's maybe 2 or 3 on the way to that, but we were trying to pitch them LED trucks because we thought at night they would glow up, right? But then we had a whole other bunch of issues with like zoning and where those things could land, but it's funny how you brought that up, because I think that we were one of the first people that started actually doing that, especially around there. And now it's actually quite difficult to get inventory around there. People buy those static billboards up 6 months in advance. Yeah, and the funny thing is that they're still pretty garbage. They're actually not that great, right? They really aren't.
No, I don't. I think it's just a waste of money, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
Listen, there's been times when I've seen a billboard, and like in marketing, you can like never use yourself as the case study. Like that's the number one thing. Like just because you don't do it doesn't mean that the majority of people don't. That majority of people don't do it. Maybe they do it. But there's a handful of times where I look at a billboard. If it's interesting enough, I definitely will pull out my phone while I'm driving and Google it. But like, I don't think I've ever bought a record off of just relating back to music from seeing a billboard. Or I've never been like, oh, I'm going to go see this show. It's usually always on Instagram, or if I see somebody posting about it on TikTok, or if it's in my Reddit feed, But that's just me. That's how I consume content.
Yeah. What is your biggest mistake early on in your career? That's one of the number one questions I like to ask, because usually mistakes define where we are and where we're going to go after that. So I'd like to ask, what's your biggest mistake in your career? Could be early on or in general.
My biggest mistake. My biggest mistake was not going to college and becoming a finance bro. Well, that was my biggest mistake. So I wouldn't be, fighting for pennies in this business. If only I got paid a percentage of commission for like the money I make in conversion advertising. For me, here's my biggest mistake, and it's very specific to me. I split my time. I always wanted to be an artist manager, and I was doing that concurrently while being a marketer and advertiser in music. And so neither of these two I wouldn't even say marketing was my passion, but I just got good at it. I never focused on just one. I was always trying to do two at the same time. So I feel like had I just like buckled down and focused on one, I could have done it a lot more. And I feel about that. I'm 38, so there's a bunch of other parts of my life where I feel like if I only had just focused on this one thing and not this thing, what could it have become? I think that would have been interesting. And I say that because the bane of my existence. This is just me. LinkedIn, when everyone is now an expert on LinkedIn, and I look at people's jobs on LinkedIn and I'm like, there's no way that you even know what you're talking about. You've been doing this for years and you're over here writing like a CEO level, dissertation on marketing. And I'm like, I hate you. See things like that. And I'm like, I'm so grateful I didn't throw everything, my entire intention into this. Cause I don't want to be like one of those assholes who doesn't know shit, but acts like they know everything. Marketing advertising were like how I paid for my life. It was like, I got better at it because I needed to pay my bills. I ended up having kids, and like management wasn't doing that for me. And, I don't manage artists anymore as of May of last year. So it's like now I have all this time to focus. And so I've been kind of like doubling down on learn. That's why I've been talking about like trying to figure out what performance marketers and performance advertisers and e-com are doing, because that's like how I have to try to change my strategies to fit like what actually works, what actually gets results in my industry or in this specific line of work.
So how do your budgets work? Like, obviously I presume you have different budgets for different artists. Like, how do you define what those budgets look like?
So what happens is the budgets come in at a higher level. It's all based on like projections. How they budget at my company is it's kind of silly because it doesn't leave room for like development and real growth stuff, but you can go back and ask for money. They set it up basically on projections and data of what it's supposed to do, what it's gonna make, and it's a specific percentage. They have this huge Excel sheet that takes in like past streaming numbers, past sales numbers, and then it like does these projections. So they give me a number, and then for me, I mean, this is also very specific to music. With each project and each budget I get, then I have to look at the artist, and then from there I need to go look at who their fans are, where their fans exist on the internet, where their fans exist in real life. What do these fans have affinities towards, outside of music? How can I target them inside the digital world? How can I target them outside the digital world if I have the budget? Because sometimes I have a $2,000 budget for a reissue, and obviously I can't do anything too spectacular with that, and it stays mostly digital. But it's usually that, and then let's say I have conversion advertising is a big thing. If I'm making a ton of money by selling whatever D2C product they have, I can go back and be like, hey, I'm making money. Can I have some more money to make you more money? But there's times when I do that and they're like, oh, no, we're cool. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. For every $2 I'm spending, I'm making $15. And they're like, no, that's fine. And I'm like, huh? So that's sometimes you're dealing with people like that too. And you're like, this is soul sucking. Like, what is going on? Like, I'm telling you, every $2 I spend, I make 15. And they're like, no. I'm like, it'll sell out. And I'm like, what if it doesn't? I can guarantee it right now. But yeah, and then once I got that budget, like I said, I look at it and I flight it out depending on where it's going to work. And there's other people on my team too where like they'll pull budget and it goes towards creator campaigns, which I think are worthless. If you have a $30,000 budget and you're spending $10,000 on creators, unless you already have something that's super popping off, like something that's big that actually like needs people posting about it, like influencers, it's such a waste. I mean, that's my hot take on that. Like, you don't need to throw money at creators every single release, because if no one cares about it, the 3 videos you're getting for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 aren't going to move the needle for you. So no matter how many times you try.
Is there a point in a life cycle, like at what point do you decide to do out of home? Because Bogdan and I talk about this a lot. The biggest thing we struggle with is we are the last people, like people don't usually start with out of home, right? We're usually not only are we the last in their cycle, we're also like the last ones to know. We never really get involved in things too upfront, usually once things have kicked off. At what point do you decide? Our biggest grip is that we're always the last people to know. We're always like, at some point they go, hey, let's do some out of home. At what point do you decide that I should take this to the streets? Like, is there a metric you use? Tell me a bit about that.
Okay, so there's a couple factors how that works for me. And like when I look at out of home, I'm looking at out of home as like, usually for me, what it usually is digital billboards and then connected TV, which is like still, it's in home, but it's still like out of home technically. First and foremost, the budget needs to allow it, because the only thing with out of home for me, besides connected TV, which has changed a lot recently, now you can install retargeting pixels, and like it's a whole different playing field with that. Obviously, you can't install retargeting pixels on digital billboards because it's not a thing. For me, the budget needs to be there. I need to have a big enough budget, a big enough cushion, because I need to make sure that I can hit everything else. And then on top of that, I need to make sure the product that I'm trying to sell would connect to a more general audience. So for me, since I work in music, is this person, do they have notoriety? Like, for example, John Fogerty from Creedence Clearwater Revival. I had a bigger budget for his new record, which was like him re-recording his old tracks. And it's literally like, I've listened to so many re-recorded records that just like suck. And he actually did like a killer job on it. But I was like, people know who John Fogerty is. People know CCR songs, because any Vietnam movie you ever watched has, Fortunate Son by CCR. So for me, that's a no-brainer. Like, I can put him there. Or Sarah McLachlan, Arms of the Angel? In the arms, like every, PETA commercial or whatever, the S, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. People maybe don't know Sarah McLachlan's face, but they know her voice. Right. So like for me, that's like a no-brainer. Like it also works for me if I have a band. What was the band I did it for? I think I did it for Seether, because Seether divorced dad rock. Seether's big enough, and they were playing like festivals, like Danny Wimmer Presents type rock festivals that has like butt rock in it. So like I was like, hey, we have the budget. Our goal is to get people aware of this new record. Let's put digital billboards around the festivals, like I was talking about earlier. Let's put them around the festival. When I want like a new way to make sure I can get in front, if I can guarantee it's the correct audience, that's That's like, especially those billboards around those festivals, that's important to me. If they're big enough, I know that like at least some people it'll connect, especially with digital billboards, like that type of out of home. Obviously it's harder for me to connect like who's seen it or really the lift that it gives.
Yeah. Well, you can, but you can do that though. There is ways of
Yeah,
with grabbing
know,
mobile IDs and things like that.
yes, you can do that. Sadly I haven't used like I haven't done it like that. I've
Yeah.
been just sometimes
So
music.
we usually do a lot of that if it's retail based. So,
Yeah. For retail, what we usually do is based on the exposure of the campaign, it needs to have a certain amount of views logically. Because if it has less than, if I'm not mistaken, 500,000 impressions, most of the time, the brand study, the lift study is not going to be worth it for the client. So we want to make sure, A, is the campaign big enough to warrant this expense for the client? Then what we do is we pull out all the mobile advertiser IDs that have seen at the time that were around the billboard at the time the ad played. So we collect every play log of every location, pull every mobile advertiser ID from every cell phone, every device that was around the billboard at the time that the billboard played. So we know, hey, has this person been exposed to the ad? Then we can retarget them and map out if they visit the website, if they went in store. But again, that usually is worth it for bigger budgets.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like for me, obviously, I would love to do that because I know now you can do cross device tracking. So if they hit their mobile ID there, you can set up a connected TV campaign. So now they're seeing, now they're watching their Fire TV and they're seeing an ad for this. They can't talk about retail, so seeing an ad for the store. Like that's super interesting to me. Sadly, music gives me pretty meager budgets unless it's like something big. So a lot of the companies I've worked with, or usually I go for like self-serve platforms, especially like that's usually big for me because also like I'll get assets 2 hours after I was supposed to launch the ads or a day after, which also sucks because like they don't understand this stuff takes setup time. So I can't just deploy billboard ads like same day. It doesn't work. It's got to go through like an approval process. They don't understand that. They don't care. These are like low level project manager, senior project managers been there 30 years that still don't understand what they're doing. But like, that's interesting to me. Like if as like a marketer and advertiser like that, ultimately that's what you should want. You should want to be able to collect those mobile IDs and then do like a household map and then be able to serve ads in different facets on different platforms or different, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean, like connected TV or show them ads on Instagram just because they walk past that, because that's like the ultimate retargeting. Like if you thought going to look at a diamond ring and then it follows you on the internet was intrusive, you walk by a billboard and you notice it and now you get hit with ads, because I mean that's what it is. It's like all of marketing and advertising is like subliminal brainwashing basically. Like they said, you have to see something 7 times before it clicks in your head. And the better we can do that in a subliminal way and make you think that you want it, as opposed to being like, hey, you want this, instead subtly making them like convincing them, which is funny because like I was also reading about, what was it? Like psychological profiles. I know that's a big thing in like higher level advertising, like, Fortune 500 companies do that kind of stuff. But I always thought that was interesting, like how eventually in the future, you're making ads that are taking like your looking at everything that you look at on the internet in your cookie and then building like a psychological profile on you and then changing the wording and like the format and the colors and the imagery of your ad and like serving your ad that way. Cause there's companies now that can like that create ads for you and they'll like take into consideration, they'll do that. They'll take into consideration your audience. And I think Seb, we were talking about that.
Yeah.
A while ago, where it's making iterations based on the psychological profile of these people. So it's no longer like, hey, buy this now. Now it's like appealing to like your core emotions and like the empathy you have inside your heart, and it's making you think that this is what you want, which is advertising and marketing has always done, but now like on a crazier, more science fiction type level, which I think is interesting too. That's not to go off.
That's awesome.
Stuff, but it's reality. It's happening now.
I do have a question that I want to circle back to, because we spoke about budgets. Said your goal again is to extend the runway as much as possible, especially for newer artists that have way smaller budgets. Given it's 2026, the conversation that I have with a lot of people is, hey, I virtually have no budget. How do I make my ads work? Do you have any tips or any best practices you can give to our audience?
Yeah, of course. I mean, well, if you're in music, I have like a bunch. If you only have a limited budget, you only want to focus on the channels that make sense for you. You only want to focus on the things that work for you. A lot of your time needs to go into focusing on content. And I guess that's true for any brand. You need to be a content creator. You need to be an editor. You need to understand, this sounds stupid, but you need to understand trends. You need to understand, how, you need to know how to take advantage of what other people are doing, like to find the juxtaposition of who you are within somebody else's content and recreate it in your style. Any brand needs to do that. You have to create content that speaks to your core audience. And that's the biggest thing. Like, marketing and advertising are secondary to that. Like, all of your time and money should be invested in figuring out how to make the best content, because you need to be on par first, at minimum on par with everybody else, and then on top of that, if you want to stand out, you have to be better than them. So I had an artist, Lil Texas, who went from not using social media to, he's got 300,000 followers on Instagram. He's got over 500,000 on TikTok, and gets these insane engagement rates because he focused on, what drives, what content drives engagement, and he doubled down on it, and he made it his own thing. He put a spin on it, like I said, like the juxtaposition between like who he really is and then this this digital persona. Like he found this happy medium. That's most important. And then like when you move on to marketing, obviously you need to have a timeline and you need to like hit all of your socials. But if you have money to spend on advertising, then you need to really just hunker down on what works for you, on like what platforms work for you. And also you can't do it yourself. You can't boost your Instagram posts through the app. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't work that way. You need to go watch it. There's YouTube videos on everything. Like if you're hungry enough, like you can learn how to open up Meta Business Manager and set up a proper campaign. It's going to take you a couple hours to watch a YouTube video, and it's going to take you a couple times to really do that, to get better at it. But all of the information exists. There's no excuse. I don't have time. That's not real. I worked 2 jobs at the same time, had a kid, and I was still getting in trouble because I'm on my phone working all the time. If you really want to win, that's how you win. You don't just say, oh, well, I don't have time for that. Well, it's like, sleep less, which sucks. It sucks to say that, but it's like, yeah, you're getting 4 hours of sleep tonight. Do you want this to work? Those major companies weren't because a dude worked 2 hours a day. And I know there is like the 4-hour work day or work week or whatever. And I know that exists, but unless you've already grinded, you can't ever slow down too. You have to keep your foot on the gas. And I've seen that with artists, like they're blowing up. And then they're like, oh, I can calm down. And then guess what? No one cares about you anymore because you took your foot off the gas during the most important time. You should have kept evolving, kept grinding. Yeah, talk to people. Go to networking events, talk to marketers, talk to advertisers, talk to people in different industries, talk to people who are smarter than you. Like that's how you win. You don't win by keeping stupid people around you. You win by getting people who are smarter than you, who challenge you. That's why I keep Seb around. So I can feel smarter. I'm just kidding.
Hey, we're at that part of the show where we do rapid fire takeaways. We just want real quick answers. So one channel you would double down on today. Go.
YouTube.
Okay, cool.
One metric that actually matters.
Cost per conversion.
Okay. One growth myth you strongly disagree with.
If you pour money into it, it'll work. If you put enough money in, it'll make people care.
What's the worst advice you've ever received for marketing?
I just put it up. It's fine.
Yeah, we've heard that a lot.
Yeah, just do it.
All right.
Just do it.
Just do it. Just go for it. Let's see what happens, dude. Let's just spend all this money and see what happens.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Hey, Ian, thanks for coming in today, man.
Hey, thanks, Seb. Bogdan, thank you.
It's been my pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.
But hey, seriously, thank you for coming in today. And join us next week for another Lumos Talks.
Thank you. Hey, remember to like and subscribe.
All right. Thank you, Ian. Shut up. Thank you, buddy.